Daystar television network has died. The network shared on social media that Joni Lamb passed away this morning.
Joni Lamb was more than a broadcasting icon. She was a spiritual leader whose influence reached millions of homes worldwide. But after her death at 65, silence around the cause sparked speculation and raised serious questions about Daystar's future. Behind the scenes, family conflict, medical struggles, and leadership uncertainty created a crisis few fully understood. As the ministry faced one of its darkest moments, one question remained: who would guide Daystar after the loss of the woman who helped build it? The hidden cause of death. When Joni Lamb died on May 7, 2026, at her home in Bedford, Texas, the official announcement was shrouded in a surprising silence. Daystar's board expressed deep grief and praised her legacy of faith, but notably omitted key details about the exact cause of her death. The statement acknowledged that Joni had faced serious health challenges in private and suffered a significant back injury shortly before passing, but it stopped short of revealing the full medical picture. This omission left viewers and insiders alike questioning what truly led to the sudden collapse of a woman who had been a larger-than-life figure in Christian broadcasting. Her back injury was disclosed by her husband and co-host Doug Weiss as involving two hairline fractures at the junction of the thoracic and lumbar spine, specifically the T11 and L1 vertebrae. Medical experts emphasize that this area, where the stiff ribs meet the flexible lower back, is prone to compression fractures which cause intense pain and severely limit mobility. Recovery from such an injury typically requires months of rest, specialized care, and physical therapy, a daunting challenge for anyone, let alone someone leading a global network. Yet even this serious injury was described as compounding other undisclosed health issues that pre-existed it. Rumors circulated about possible cancer or neurological decline as observers and fans noted visible changes in her appearance during brief returns to the air. Reports referenced facial swelling and a subtle weakness on her left side, signs that suggested something deeper and far more serious than a spinal fracture alone. Despite these signs, neither Daystar nor Joni's family publicly identified the nature of her underlying illness, choosing instead to maintain a carefully controlled narrative focused on privacy and faith. This deliberate discretion stirred curiosity and concern within the ministry's loyal audience. In fact, the silence around her illness became a pattern resonant with the years of controversy she had navigated behind the scenes. Just as family conflicts and difficult decisions were kept from the public eye, so too were the struggles with her health. For supporters who invested their trust and donations in Daystar, this lack of transparency created tensions about what was known and shared. The network's responsibility to its viewers seemed to clash with Joni's personal commitment to face hardship quietly and with dignity. The officially recorded cause of death issued by credible sources, including Wikipedia's verified entry, points to complications from her back injury as the proximate cause. Yet it also acknowledges the larger constellation of serious health matters that she faced privately. Medical literature describes vertebral fractures in this part of the spine as potentially life-threatening if they worsen or if they interact with other health conditions. The fact that her condition deteriorated rapidly in the final days indicates the complexity of her battle, a fight kept close to her and her closest circle, but largely hidden from the public. Joni's decision not to disclose either the full extent of her health challenges or the family disputes surrounding her final years shaped how the last chapter of her life is understood today. This intentional privacy left many questions unanswered and created a cloud of mystery that only deepened after her passing. The choice to keep these matters confidential reflects a tension between personal dignity and the public nature of the ministry she led. As difficult as it is to grasp what was truly happening behind the scenes, the silent gaps in information have become defining features of Joni Lamb's end, shadows that invite ongoing investigation and reflection. The full medical truth remains partially out of reach, underscoring the profound challenge of leading a faith-based public life amid serious private trials. This silence around her health challenges cannot be understood without reflecting on the family rifts that played a consequential role in the last years of her leadership and ministry. Family rift and public fallout. The relationship between Joni Lamb and her eldest son, Jonathan, fractured publicly and painfully before her death, signaling deep and unresolved family wounds. Jonathan, once an integral part of Daystar, was fired from the network 6 months prior to Joni's passing after refusing to comply with a formal performance improvement plan and declining mediation. This estrangement was more than a professional split. It was a rupture that cut to the core of a family entwined with a global ministry. Jonathan and his wife Susie went public with serious allegations that added fuel to the fire. They claimed that in 2021, Jonathan discovered a male family member inappropriately interacting with their 5-year-old daughter. The accused man, known only under the pseudonym Pete, denied the claims, but Jonathan and Susie alleged that both Marcus and Joni Lamb urged them not to involve law enforcement. They further alleged that after Joni met privately with the child stopped disclosing any details, suggesting a possible suppression of the truth. Joni vehemently denied any cover-up, and she sort of brushed off the allegations as a deliberate smear campaign, powered by Jonathan's resentment because he was sidelined for Daystar leadership. In a video statement to the Daystar audience, she insisted that Marcus had clearly named her as the successor, and that Jonathan's pushback against leadership structure meant they had no other route but to end his employment. Somehow, this public family conflict then spilled into the ministry's wider operations, and the fan base too, breaking trust in a pretty visible way. The Colleyville Police Department did investigate the abuse allegations, but they closed the case in May 2025, saying there wasn't enough evidence, while still leaving the possibility open to reopen it if a formal disclosure came from the child. Daystar quickly celebrated that closing, calling it a vindication, but Jonathan and Susie stayed firm, refusing to retract their claims or any remarks made to the media. Their continued insistence kept the spotlight right on the very public rift inside the ministry's founding family, and it didn't really fade. The fallout kept echoing through Daystar's web of partners and affiliates. More than 30 major Christian broadcasters cut ties after the scandals. And yeah, names like Joyce Meyer and Greg Laurie were mentioned in the same breath. Daystar insisted that most of it was just routine contract timing, but the sheer volume and how fast it all lined up got read by many as a clear reaction to what was still unfolding. In other words, the network's image, painstakingly shaped over decades, suddenly felt pretty exposed. Jonathan and Susie deciding to go public did not come cheap, not on a personal level. Accounts spelled out intimidation, watchful surveillance, and threats that pushed the couple to move in secret, basically to stay safe. Jonathan said his public disclosures were the toughest expression of obedience in his life, and he framed it like a painful step, driven by a conviction to pull private matters into the open, trusting that truth and restoration would come after. That whole push-pull between loyalty, faith, and justice added even more tangled meaning to the family and ministry story. The family discord that unsettled the ministry's heart set the stage for controversies extending beyond personal matters, touching on issues of theology and new leadership arising within the organization. The controversial marriage to Doug Weiss. Amid the turmoil following Marcus Lamb's death in 2021, Joni Lamb's remarriage to psychologist Doug Weiss ignited fresh controversy within the Daystar ministry and her family circle. Weiss, who had previously appeared on Daystar as a guest, finalized his divorce from his wife of over 30 years in May 2022, and just over a year later, Joni and Weiss married on June 10, 2023. He promptly became her co-host on the flagship show Ministry Now, marking a swift and public blending of their personal and professional lives. Joni framed this union in public statements as what she called a miraculous and divinely led relationship. However, the marriage was deeply contested by her son Jonathan and his wife Susie, who opposed it on theological grounds. They argued that Weiss's divorce had not met what they understood as biblical criteria for lawful separation, rendering the new marriage adulterous in their eyes. This conviction placed them in direct conflict not only with Joni, but also with the leadership structures within Daystar. The controversy surrounding Weiss extended into his professional history, further inflaming tensions. Colorado's state professional licensing boards had previously reprimanded Weiss twice, once for misrepresenting his credentials by using the title licensed marriage and family therapist without proper licensure, and again for failing to appropriately counsel couples during an intensive seminar. The boards described his approach as detrimental, accelerating relationship breakdown rather than supporting healing. Adding to the unease, investigative reports surfaced allegations from multiple former female clients of Weiss's counseling center describing harmful and traumatic experiences during therapy. They claimed to have been pressured to resume intimacy prematurely, subjected to questionable polygraph testing, and shamed in ways that worsened their emotional state. Weiss and Daystar did not provide substantive responses to these serious allegations, leaving many questions about his suitability unanswered. This contentious remarriage not only deepened existing family divisions, but also played into broader institutional crises Daystar faced as a result of leadership disputes, tarnished reputations, and public scrutiny. It became a symbol of the profound transformation and uncertainty the network was undergoing. From these family fractures and personal controversies, Daystar's position as a major Christian broadcaster entered a new and fragile chapter, with far-reaching implications for its viewers and partners alike. Daystar's institutional crisis. The public appearance of scandal at Daystar set off this kind of huge, uneven shift across its big broadcasting world. Shaking the whole thing, the base of a network that folks once treated as basically unmovable. After all the allegations came out, and the family arguments too, more than 30 well-known Christian broadcasters cut ties with Daystar. People like Joyce Meyer, Greg Laurie, and Jack Hibbs, all pretty familiar names in evangelical circles, walked away from the platform, and that alone pointed to a real split in the ministry's relationships and how it's viewed outside. Daystar said it was just routine contract renewals, nothing dramatic, but the connection to the controversy looked pretty obvious to observers. And it wasn't only that individual broadcasters decided to leave, it seemed more like everyone was getting that pause, that reluctance, to be linked with a network that now felt wrapped in internal friction and public pushback. The way the exits clustered together during one contract renewal window was odd enough that Religion News Service and other industry watchers started commenting on it. That ripple, those repeated defections, basically pushed Daystar into answering bigger stuff about governance, openness, and the overall culture. Stuff that a simple contract talk really wouldn't cover by itself. The network's financial structure only made these worries feel even more tangled, like it was all kind of wedged together. Since Daystar is a church organization, it is exempt from filing an IRS Form 990, which is the disclosure document most nonprofit entities are supposed to submit. That exemption, on paper anyway, keeps Daystar's financial details mostly out of public sight. It's a stark contrast with competitors like Trinity Broadcasting Network. And honestly, the opacity of Daystar's finances had been a simmering issue even before the scandals fully broke out, which is why some people were already asking for more accountability and a clearer, more open explanation of donor funds and expenditures. On top of all that, Daystar also started getting more pressure over how it addressed the controversies and over the part played by key figures, including Doug Weiss. Weiss quickly turned into a kind of lightning rod during the whole mess. His professional credentials and his counseling history were scrutinized almost as closely as the family disputes. Investigative reporting brought up licensing board sanctions and also unsettled client testimonies, which together painted a worrying picture of someone whose approach to therapy seemed to cause real harm. And because there were no clear public responses from Weiss or Daystar, the doubts kept getting louder, like the uncertainty just kept spreading. Internally, the crisis sowed division among staff and partners about the network's direction and values. The struggle between keeping faith-driven mission statements and confronting complicated, unflattering realities made this atmosphere kinda thick with uncertainty, almost like it wouldn't clear. For a ministry so deeply tangled with its founders' identities, these challenges hit right at the heart of its purpose, forcing leaders and supporters to rethink what future Daystar could and should embody. For viewers and donors wrestling with these revelations, feelings moved around from confusion and disappointment to betrayal, and also a stubborn kind of hope for reform. The network's fast ascent to prominence seemed threatened by the same forces of secrecy and conflict that had lingered under the surface for years, quietly. Trust, once implicit, now needed careful rebuilding, piece by piece. Despite this turbulence, there was still a question looming larger than broadcaster defections or public perception: the question of leadership and succession in the aftermath of Joni Lamb's death. Leadership silence and succession questions. Following Joni Lamb's passing, Daystar entered a period marked by notable silence regarding its future leadership. The network's official statement assured viewers and donors that an executive leadership team had been put in place, ensuring uninterrupted ministry operations, yet it withheld the names of those now steering the organization. This lack of transparency left a vacuum of uncertainty filled by speculation, sparking questions about Daystar's governance structure and decision-making processes. Public inquiries seeking clarity, including those by investigative reporters and Daystar's own advocates, received little substantive response. The absence of clear communication fueled concern about whether the board was prepared to address the complex legacies that Joni left behind, including unresolved family conflicts and institutional controversies. The mystery over who actually holds the reins fed doubt over the network's stability during a crucial transition. Within the network's visible leadership, Joni's daughter, Rachel Lamb Brown, has taken on expanded hosting duties on Ministry Now, filling a familiar on-air role her mother once anchored. Rachel's prominence signals her potential as a key figure in Daystar's ongoing story, embodying a continuation of familial leadership that the ministry has known for decades. Meanwhile, other family members connected by marriage, such as Rebecca Lamb Weiss, married into Doug Weiss's family, also occupy positions within the Daystar orbit, reflecting the tight-knit nature of its leadership circle. Doug Weiss's ongoing role remains a subject of public debate and quiet contention. His controversial professional background and polarizing presence at Daystar have drawn scrutiny both internally and among viewers. Whether his position within the network will solidify or diminish remains unclear, but his influence during Joni's final years made him impossible to overlook in discussions about the future. The broader Daystar board's reticence to detail its leadership plan suggests a tension between the desire for continuity and the pressure for reform. Balancing these demands is complicated by the deeply personal nature of the network's founding family and the recent, painful conflicts that rocked it. The board's choices in this transition period will likely determine whether reform advances or whether old patterns of opacity and control persist. The weight of these unanswered questions turns the spotlight to Joni Lamb's legacy in its fullest complexity. The next chapter for Daystar is still being written in the wake of her departure. The legacy she left behind is layered with achievement and real human struggle, a story that deserves thoughtful reflection as we consider what lies ahead for the ministry she helped build. Legacy and unanswered questions. Joni Lamb's passing kinda marks the end of an era for Daystar. But at the same time, it leaves behind a few unresolved questions that are still shaping how the network moves forward. Her legacy is powerful and also really complicated, like there's no clean line between the good and the hard parts. She helped build a billion-dollar ministry that reached billions worldwide. But in her last years, things were not simple. There were private struggles, family friction, and even concerns about transparency. Her leadership turned Daystar into one of America's biggest Christian television networks, and it grew beyond more than 2 billion homes internationally. She was more than just a familiar face on screen, though. She was a driving engine behind the ministry's expansion, getting recognition through Emmy and Telly Awards, and helping form a major stage for faith-based broadcasting. But her legacy also drags along difficult shadows: public family bickering, serious allegations, and then the estrangement from her son Jonathan. All of that raised sore questions about reconciliation, accountability, and the real cost of leadership when ministry and family life collide. Jonathan and Susie's public forgiveness after her death brought a measure of grace, sure, but it also highlighted wounds that were never quite healed. Joni's choice to keep much of her health journey private was deeply human and personal, but it still left viewers and donors a bit foggy about what was going on behind the scenes. At the same time, Daystar's financial opacity keeps feeding concerns about stewardship and institutional responsibility. Now, Daystar is at a crossroads. To truly honor Joni's contributions, the network has to face the controversies and the tight-lipped secrecy that cling to her legacy. Her story stays a mix of faith, accomplishment, sacrifice, and also very real human imperfection. Joni Lamb's life and death reveal a complex legacy of faith, leadership, and human struggle. As Daystar faces its uncertain future, the way it confronts these challenges will define what comes next. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more insightful looks at the people shaping our world.